Nope.
You're crazy.
Ever wonder why wall art is so darn expensive? Me too. I wanted to come up with some cheaper alternatives. So I spent a few days and I engineered how to take ordinary items and transform them into high-end looking wall decor. But only for a fraction of the cost. First up, my poster on canvas. Okay, let's get started. I have a paintbrush, I have a little container to pour my Elmer's glue in because this is going to be the single most important product I use for this project. I did this before with another poster that was a thinner paper, and I love the way it turned out. And I know most of you are probably thinking, well, this is a project that would be great with Mod Podge, but what I'm not gonna do is I'm not going to seal the front with the glue or with something like Mod Podge. I want it to be just the finish of the poster. I created this on a program called Canva, which is really fun. It lets you take all these different images or draw images yourself, scan them into the computer, and incorporate them into a document. This I had printed up at a professional printer, but it was under $10, which I thought was a really good price on a really good heavy quality paper. And this size is basically 18 inches by 24. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a good amount of glue on this canvas. And because we don't want it to look necessarily brand spanking new, a little bit of character to the paper and the poster itself makes, I think, for a much more interesting piece of wall art. So here we go. I'm just gonna place this onto the canvas and make sure that it's all straight. I'm just gonna stick this on, make sure that it's really nicely adhered. Now, I just have to wait for this to start to dry. And I can already feel and see a little bit of crinkling on the poster itself because the paper has gotten wet. I think that adds to the distressed kind of antiqued look. The background that I chose was an antique paper that has some water stains in it, so I think the crinkles will add really nicely. I'm ready to get my poster hung on the wall. Here is the hardware that I'm going to be using to hang my poster from. This came from Bed Bath & Beyond. I think it's really interesting. The rod slots right on top, and I'm going to be using a really cool antique oil burner as my decorative rod. Here it is, and the total cost is much less than something you pay for in a store, and you made it yourself. What do you think? If you thought that was amazing, wait until you see the next one. Next, my stencil frame wall art. And I'm going to be using a placemat. This was, I think, about $5 or $6. It's got a really heavy texture to it, and it's double-sided. I bought this 3-piece decorative stencil set on Amazon, and I picked the one I liked the best, which is this floral pattern. Also, I found these fabrics at Walmart. I'm gonna do one on this and see which one turns out the best. And just start and dab it all in. Now, I must admit, some of the results along the way I was not happy with at all. The black was really harsh and it bled, so I decided to use lighter neutral colors instead. And I have a paint here. The color is actually called Territorial Beige. I'm not sure what that means. And I have this steel gray color, which I like. It's more of a taupey gray, and I think what I'm going to do first is the tan and then highlight it with the gray. To try and avoid some bleeding, I did use a spray adhesive on the back of my stencil. Now, just to be safe, I'm gonna go ahead and take this down anyway because I don't want it to move in the middle of the process. So I actually got my little pounce brushes, that I like to call them, foam brushes. They sell these sets at any hobby or craft store. I got these at Walmart. So I'm going to start with my tan color and just go through and dab lightly. I think that's a really interesting color on this, so that it's all more or less in a neutral world. And I think I like that better than the harsh black. I think the final ones turned out terrific. Now let me know which ones you really love the most. And here is my stencil art. I love the way it looks with the gold frame. I'm going to trim it back a little bit. I had already frayed all of these edges, but I feel like it's still really too close to the frame. I want a little bit more white to show underneath. This is a great little hack to be able to have some really expensive looking wall art without spending that much money. So here are my other experiments. This is on that printed quilting fabric that has those swirls on it, which I really love. And I think this in a gold or a white frame, maybe even a natural wood frame, would look really, really nice. And I would love to see it with an oval mat on it. Now, here is my original one, which I love the contrast between the light and the dark, but the black was really too harsh for me. So this is how it turned out on the lighter background. And I'm going to use these little clip hooks as a means to hang this tapestry. A little tapestry without a frame. So how about that? Buy yourself 2 or 3 placemats from Walmart, do a stencil print on them, and you're ready to go. Okay, if you thought this one was amazing, wait till you see the next one. Next up, my IKEA dupe wall art with a twist project. There was something that I saw at IKEA while I was out inspiration sailing.
Dale Rishkog.
While I was there on the way out, I found these little sort of wicker or basket weave kind of trays. They were on clearance for $2.50 a piece. And even though I would have been happy to use one print for each of these 3 little baskets, I found something on Amazon, and this is wrapping paper. So this set of wrapping paper that I got on Amazon actually has 4 different kinds of coordinating wrapping paper. And I decided that I was going to use these 3 as my backgrounds for my circles. what I need to do is lay out exactly where on the pattern I want my circle to be. Now, it wouldn't normally be that important. It could just be random. But what I did in Canva was I found images that were similar to the images on the IKEA prints. Like, for instance, this derby. And it has a clear background to it, which means that I was able to scan this wrapping paper into my computer and lay the picture of the derby on top of that so that I could see the plaid underneath, which I think is great. So I want to sort of match up where these stripes go more or less so that I can get this centered the way I want to in my circle. And now I'm going to trace around this. And now I'm going to cut this out. All right, so the next step is going to be to use Mod Podge on this. So I'm going to put a little bit in here, and the reason I'm using Mod Podge instead of Elmer's glue this time is because I am going to be sealing the front of the wrapping paper. So I want to do it with a medium that's appropriate for that. Let me go ahead and get this spread out over the whole surface, and I'll be ready to apply my paper. Welcome to day 2. Okay, so these are now dry. I love to challenge myself by trying new things, which means a lot of failures. This I wouldn't hang in the back alley of a pool hall. No offense to people who hang out in back alleys of pool halls. I just wouldn't want to hang them there and mess up their good time. So even though I'm fairly happy with the way the image turned out, I decided it was going to be best to go ahead and flip them and do it on the inside. This way I could use the outer edge frame of the basket as the frame. The edges looked terrible and I was either going to have to paint them or use some trim, and I really wanted to keep the project as simple as possible. All right, here they are. All 3 of them are cut out, custom to each little basket. Make sure you don't get them mixed up. The next step is going to be to go ahead and Mod Podge them on. All 3 of them are done. Now it's time for me to cut out my images. All right, so I'm ready to move on to the next step. I've given these plenty of time to dry. This is my background that I'm putting my rhinestone-eyed or my jeweled-eyed leopard on. This is my background for my derby hat. And this is my background that originally was going to be plain. But because I'll be putting hooks on this, I thought, well, why not add something else that can hold like an umbrella or a purse? So I went ahead and created this on Canva, printed it up and cut it out. And I'm also going to have this image. So this is my little triptych. These guys are dry and looking pretty darn slick. So the next step is to attach my little Dollar Tree paddleboard to the back, which will act as a place for a hook or a nail to set into, as well as giving me a backing for the screws. My hook is attached. Let's do the next one. Now, how is that for some fun pop art? If your home has a neutral palette like mine, this is a great inexpensive way to add pops of color and make it a practical space too, where I could hang a coat, an umbrella, even my glasses. Okay, if you thought this one was amazing, wait till you see the next one. I really appreciate you for watching. See you next time. Stormy, come here!